I met my girlfriend at a funeral and thought I found the one, then I overheard her telling a friend she only dated me as a dare because I was too dumb and ugly. I didn't think I'd ever need to log back into this old account, but here we are. I'm stuck, really stuck, and I need some honest advice before I do something I might regret and blow up what's been, up until now, a solid 8-month relationship. I've been going over everything in my head all day, trying to remember exactly how it all played out, but the truth is, some of it's a blur. So I'll be piecing things together as best I can, might paraphrase a bit, but the core of it's all true. So here's the quick background. I'm 27, my girlfriend Ellie is 24, and we've been seeing each other for a little over 8 months. We met under the weirdest circumstances, at a funeral, of all places. I wasn't really there for the person who passed, it was my buddy Marcus's uncle. I just came to support Marcus. The two of them were incredibly close, spent summers fishing at a lake cabin in Maine, that kind of bond. When his uncle died, Marcus was crushed, and he practically begged me to come with him. Of course I said yes. That's what friends do. The funeral was held at one of those old churches, the kind with stained glass windows and polished wood pews. It was one of those gray, somber days where the clouds just sit in the sky and everything feels heavy. I stayed close to Marcus during the service, but afterward, at the reception, he got pulled into his family circle. Everyone was sharing stories and hugging, so I backed off and gave him space. I wasn't really grieving, so I just drifted to the side and started talking to this older guy who'd known Marcus's uncle for decades. He was telling these hilarious stories about their wild younger days. Honestly, it was way more entertaining than I expected. I found myself smiling, even laughing a little. That's when she walked up, Ellie. I didn't know her yet, of course, but she spotted me from across the room and made a beeline for me, drink in hand. Whatever was in her glass, it definitely wasn't apple juice. Her hair was pulled back in this elegant kind of way, and she wore a black dress that somehow managed to be both classy and beautiful. She looked like someone who belonged in a magazine, but in a down-to-earth way. She stopped in front of me and, without missing a beat, cracked this super dark joke. "You're smiling a little too much for a funeral," she said, eyebrow raised. "Did you put the guy in the casket yourself?" Then she smirked and added, "Planning your next victim, or was the guy in the box your final masterpiece?" It was so out of left field, I let out this ugly snort laugh and almost coughed up my drink. The older man I was chatting with just gave me a knowing look and politely stepped away, leaving me alone with this bold, hilarious woman who clearly wasn't like anyone I'd ever met at a funeral or anywhere else, really. We ended up talking for hours. You know those rare moments when you just click with someone, even in the most unexpected place? That was us. Turns out she wasn't related to the guy who died, but she grew up next door to him and called him Uncle Joe. They were close, like extended family. I told her about Marcus and me, and somehow that led to talking about work, weird indie films we both liked, and how we both hate olives on pizza. By the end of the reception, I had her number saved in my phone and this strange gut feeling that something meaningful had just happened. On the drive home, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Meeting someone at a funeral sounds like the start of a really bad romantic comedy or a psychological thriller, but Ellie had this vibe that was different. She was smart, funny, gorgeous, and just easy to be around. 3 days later, I took a shot and asked her out. She said yes almost instantly, which, yeah, I'll admit, gave my ego a boost. For our first date, I took her to this little ramen joint I'd found a few months before. It's this cozy, no-frills place with incredible food. I was a little nervous it might come off as too casual, but she loved it. We sat at the counter, watched the chef do his thing, and just talked for hours. She had this way of locking in when I spoke, like I was saying something important. She listened, asked great questions, laughed at my dumb jokes. I felt seen. After dinner, we wandered around downtown and ended up grabbing ice cream, even though it was freezing outside. I remember thinking how rare it was to meet someone who didn't take themselves too seriously. When the night ended with a strong, unexpected kiss outside my car, I was already hooked and already thinking about what we'd do next weekend. That weekend, we went hiking at a nearby state park. She was completely into it, scrambling over rocks, wading through freezing water just to chase a better view. By the time we went to that cooking class on our third date and completely butchered sushi together, I was already falling hard. The first few months flew by. She eventually let me see her place. I introduced her to my circle of friends, and they all instantly liked her. She had this charisma, this quick wit that made her fit in effortlessly. Before long, we were spending more nights together than apart. So when my lease was up around the 6-month mark, I floated the idea of moving in together. She was all for it. We found a small 2-bedroom house to rent. Nothing fancy, but it had a little backyard where I could grill, and she could finally start the vegetable garden she always talked about. It felt like ours, even though we were renting. I loved coming home to her every night. There was only one thing that didn't quite sit right, something I brushed off at the time. I hadn't met many of her friends. She introduced me to her parents early on, but her friend group? Always a reason why I couldn't meet them. Someone was going through something, or the timing wasn't right, or plans got cancelled last minute. I figured she'd let me into that part of her life when she was ready. Looking back, maybe I should have asked more questions. But at the time, I was all in. I even started casually checking out engagement rings. Nothing serious yet, just browsing, but I was picturing what might look good on her hand. Then came last night. I got home earlier than usual. I had picked up an extra shift, but the guy I was covering for showed up anyway, so I got booted out. My boss, Jeremy, literally pushed me toward the door and said, "Go surprise that girlfriend of yours. Grab some flowers or something." Sounded like a solid plan. We'd both been working long hours and hadn't had much downtime lately. On the way home, I stopped by this little flower shop and grabbed a bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite. The lady behind the counter wrapped them up with a ribbon and even tossed in some baby's breath when I mentioned they were for a surprise. I felt good. Like, stupidly happy. I couldn't wait to see the look on her face. When I got home, the door was unlocked. Not weird, Ellie forgets sometimes. I could hear her laughing in the kitchen, this big, infectious laugh that I'd loved from day one. I figured she was watching a comedy special or something while cooking. I quietly set my bag down, put the flowers on the table, and started tiptoeing toward the kitchen, ready to give her a surprise hug from behind. But then I heard her voice, and what she was saying made me stop cold in my tracks. She was on the phone. And she said, clear as day, "I never meant for this whole thing with BF to go on this long. He's not the kind of guy I'd ever actually date." I just stood there, frozen. My heart felt like it dropped straight into my stomach. Then came a pause. And then, I know, right? "But he's honestly kind of sweet, and the sex isn't bad either." She laughed. "Oh my God, Tina, stop. I'm not that desperate. But seriously, you and Stacy suck for making me do this." 8 months. Can you believe it's been 8 months? I must have made some sound, stepped wrong or brushed against the wall or something, because that's when everything shifted. She saw me. Right after she said it. I won't lie, I must have made some kind of sound, something involuntary, because her head snapped around, phone still at her ear, and her face just crumbled. I've never seen someone go that pale, that fast. She looked like she'd seen a ghost, wide eyes, trembling lips, just frozen in place. "I'll call you back," she whispered into the phone, and then dropped it onto the kitchen counter. It clattered like a gunshot in the silence. How long were you standing there?" she asked, barely able to get the words out. "Long enough," I said. "What did you mean, Ellie? That you never meant for this to last?" She took a step toward me, but I immediately stepped back. I didn't want her anywhere near me. Not after what I just heard. "Babe, it's not what you think," she said quickly, her voice already breaking. Her eyes were filling with tears, but I didn't care, not right then. "Really?" I snapped. "Because it sounded a hell of a lot like you and your friends were having a good laugh about dating me for fun. Am I some kind of charity project to you?" And that's when the full story started pouring out. For the next hour, she sat on the couch, crying, shaking, barely able to look at me, and admitted that she never actually meant to date me. At least, not seriously. According to her, once she gave me her number at the funeral, she mentioned it to her friends, Tina and Stacy. They looked me up online, found a photo of me, and thought I was so unattractive it was hilarious. Her words. She told me they were all cracking up over my appearance, said I had a receding hairline and a dad bod, and that there was no way she'd actually date someone like me. Then Tina, apparently the ringleader of this little high school reunion nightmare, said, "You should totally go out with him once. Give the poor guy some hope, then crush him." And Ellie agreed. She literally agreed to fake date me. As a joke. For 1 week. But then, she said, things changed. She told me she started enjoying my company more than she expected. That after our first date, she was supposed to ghost me, but then I kissed her, and it was really nice, so she figured, okay, maybe one more date. And that snowballed into another, and another, until somehow, we were 8 months deep into a relationship that started as a cruel dare. She said she never meant for it to go that far. That she was stupid for going along with her friends in the first place. That I was a genuinely kind person and she'd fallen in love with me for real. But it all just sounded like damage control. I asked her what she meant when she said I wasn't her type. She hesitated, then admitted that she hadn't been physically attracted to me at first. Her past boyfriends were all conventionally hot, the gym bro types with perfect hair and chiseled jaws. She actually said that like it was supposed to soften the blow. But they all turned out to be jerks, she added. "You're different. You're sweet and you actually listen." That was the moment I snapped. I told her she was immature and a complete waste of my time. I said I wished she'd just dumped me in week 1 like she originally planned, because learning all of this 8 months later when I was already in love with her was just brutal. I paced around our living room, feeling sick. "How am I supposed to believe anything you've said now?" I shouted. "Was any of it real? Or am I just the safe, boring backup plan after all your hot exes treated you like trash?" She flinched. I could see the tears pouring down her face, but it didn't change anything. All I could picture was her laughing with her friends, mocking me behind my back. Every time she dodged introducing me to her friend group suddenly made perfect sense. She was embarrassed by me the whole time. "I need to get out of here," I finally said, storming off toward the bedroom. "I can't even look at you right now." She followed me, sobbing and pleading, but I didn't listen. I just grabbed a duffel bag, stuffed some clothes inside, threw in my laptop and phone charger, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" she choked out, voice cracking. "Does it matter?" I snapped, before letting out a sigh. "To my mom's. I need space to think." And then, as I opened the front door, I saw the bouquet of sunflowers I had brought home earlier that day, still sitting on the table. That stupid bunch of flowers from a guy who had no clue he was living inside a lie. I'd been staying at my mom's ever since. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug. "Oh honey," was all she said. And I broke. I didn't even realize how much I needed that hug until the tears started coming. Not loud, not messy, just quiet, exhausted crying into my mom's shoulder. She didn't press me for details. She just brought me to my old room, made me a sandwich and some tea, and sat with me while I stared at the plate and barely touched the food. Eventually, I told her everything. From the first date to the phone call I overheard. She listened the entire time, not saying a word, her face growing more horrified with every sentence. "What do I do, Mom?" I asked when I finished. I felt like a little kid again. Totally lost. She sighed. "That's only something you can decide," she said gently. "But ask yourself this, even if she does love you now, can you ever trust her again? And more importantly, do you want to be with someone who could treat another person like that, even for a moment?" Those questions have been bouncing around in my head ever since. I haven't been able to stop thinking about them. Would I be the bad guy if I walked away from her over this? When I first got to Mom's, I shut my phone off. I didn't want to see any texts, or hear her voice in a voicemail. I needed time to process. My mom understood and gave me space, checked in every now and then, but mostly just let me be. Last night, I sat outside on her back porch for hours, staring at the stars, trying to make sense of everything. I keep replaying our relationship in my head, questioning which moments were real and which ones were part of some twisted joke. The way she used to look at me, was that genuine? Or was she just really good at pretending? 8 months. 8 months of love, planning, memories, all of it built on a lie. Update, 2 days later. First off, thank you. Seriously. To everyone who commented, whether you were supportive, critical, or just plain weird, you gave me a lot to think about. And I needed that more than I realized. So, I finally turned my phone on after posting my story. And wow! I had 37 missed calls, 19 voicemails, and over 50 unread texts. Every single one was from Ellie. I only made it through a couple of the voicemails, and honestly, they were hard to listen to. Ellie was crying full-on, breathless sobbing in every single one, basically begging me to come home and just let her explain. One message stuck with me. Through the tears, she said, "I know I don't deserve another chance, but please, just let me talk to you one more time. I can't lose you like this. I can't lose the best thing that's ever happened to me because I was too insecure and too stupid to stand up to my friends." Later, my mom found me sitting on the edge of the guest bed, just staring at my phone, still hearing those words echo in my head. She sat down next to me, gently put her arm around my shoulders, and said quietly, "You know, sometimes people do really awful things for reasons that made sense to them at the time. That doesn't make it okay. But understanding why they did it might help you figure out what comes next. The truth is, I didn't really have much of a choice but to go back home eventually. We're both on the lease, and I pay rent just like she does. I couldn't exactly afford to break the lease and disappear. Plus, my mom, while supportive, gently encouraged me to at least give Ellie a chance to explain. "You don't have to forgive her," Mom said as I packed. "And you definitely don't have to stay with her. But I raised you to hear people out, especially people you once loved." So the next day, I drove back to the house. I rehearsed what I was going to say the entire way. My plan was to stay calm, be rational, hear her out, and then decide what to do. That plan lasted all of 30 seconds. The second I walked through the front door, she came flying out of our room and practically collapsed into my arms. Her hair was a mess, her eyes were red and puffy, and she was wearing one of my old university sweatshirts, the one she always grabbed when she was feeling low or missed me while I was at work. She tried to talk, but it came out in broken sobs. I'm so sorry, was all I could make out at first, repeated over and over between gasps. Please don't leave me, please. And as much as I wanted to stay mad, it's hard watching someone you care about break down like that. I hated seeing her in pain. She wasn't just crying, she was struggling to breathe between sobs. So I helped her to the couch, got her a glass of water, and waited for her to calm down. Once she could finally speak, I asked the question that had been burning inside me since that night: why should I stay with someone who dated me as part of a dare, and still laughed about it with her shallow friends 8 months later? Her voice was shaky but steady enough to say, "It wasn't like that. I wasn't laughing at you. I swear I wasn't. I was laughing at myself, at how dumb I was for ever listening to them. I wasn't convinced." That's not what it sounded like, I told her. I get it, she said, trying to compose herself. I know how it must have looked. But let me explain everything, from the beginning. And so she did. I won't drag you through the full word-for-word replay, but here's the gist of what she said. Some names changed, of course, and I'm paraphrasing based on what I can remember. She told me that giving me her number at the funeral wasn't part of the dare. That came later. Apparently, after our first meeting, she told her friends Tina and Stacy about me. They looked me up online, found my Facebook, saw my profile picture, and decided I wasn't her level. That I wasn't attractive enough. They mocked me. According to Ellie, Tina thought it was hilarious that I was even trying to flirt with her. So they dared her, told her she should go on one date with him, give all the uggos of the world a little hope, then crush him. Their words, not mine. She admitted she'd always looked up to those two. They'd been her friends since high school. Tina and Stacy were the cool girls, and Ellie was the awkward new kid with hand-me-downs and braces. I owe them everything, she said, eyes downcast. Or at least, I used to think I did. They were there when my parents divorced, when my first boyfriend broke my heart, for every big moment. But I never realized how cruel they could be. I couldn't hold back. So what about what you said on the phone? I asked. That I wasn't your type. That you never expected this to last. What does that make me, some failed experiment? You're twisting it, she said. You're not ugly, okay? You're just not the type I used to go for. But I was wrong about that. I've never had something last this long. I've never been this happy. I love you. I love our life together. Doesn't that count for something? She tried to reach for my hands, but I pulled away. She looked heartbroken but didn't stop. Before you, I always went for guys who looked good in pictures but treated me like crap. Guys Tina and Stacy approved of. Guys who made me feel like I had to be perfect every second or they'd leave. But you let me be myself. For the first time in my life, I felt safe. I sat back, arms crossed. Yeah, well, I loved you too. I really did. But now, all I can picture is you and your friends laughing about me. Making jokes about my looks. Talking about me like I was some charity case. I can't stop thinking about that. How can I trust you after this? She insisted again that she wasn't mocking me. That the laughter was nervous, and that she'd never truly meant any of it. Tina has this way of steamrolling everyone, she explained. She turns on anyone who doesn't fall in line. I've seen her destroy friendships. I got scared. I cut her off. So instead of defending me, you kept the peace with your toxic friend? You'd rather let her insult me than stand up for the guy you claim to love? That's not fair, she said, her voice cracking. I'm trying. No, I said. You're still friends with her. That says enough. The argument just kept going in circles. I'd try to leave the room, she'd follow me, crying, apologizing, trying to explain. Every time I asked her why she couldn't just cut Tina and Stacy out of her life, she'd say the same thing: you don't understand. They know everything about me. Yeah? Except for the last 8 months, I snapped. They weren't there when we moved in together. They didn't show up when you had the flu and I made you soup. They don't know about Sunday morning coffee in bed. Or our dumb dance battles in the kitchen. That hit her. She stopped chasing me from room to room and just stood there. Quiet. For once, it felt like she saw the damage clearly. You're right, she whispered. They weren't there. They've never supported us. They don't know what we've built. For a moment, I thought maybe something had clicked. But then she went right back to defending them. Making excuses. Saying it's hard to let go of people who've been part of your life for so long. And whatever hope I had, it just fizzled out again. So yeah, I'm back home. Technically. She keeps trying to talk. Keeps asking for one more conversation. But I'm tired. I'm so tired. Every time I look at her, I see both the woman I fell in love with, and the one who agreed to date me as a joke. I see someone who's genuinely sorry. But I also see someone who still hasn't fully cut ties with the people who made her treat me like a punchline. Part of me wants to believe that we built something real. that she really did fall for me, even if the beginning was shallow and cruel. But the other part of me wonders if I'll ever be able to stop second-guessing her. If I'll always be wondering whether she's still embarrassed by me. Whether she's still trying to prove something to those women behind my back. I don't know what to do. I'm tempted to just pack up and leave for good. Any advice would be appreciated. Because right now, I feel stuck between forgiving her and finally choosing myself.